Hi, from Zones. Today I'm going to talk about differences between compression and expansion and why I use Maximus as a compressor or multiband compressor. So, first of all, what is compression and what is expansion? Compression and expansion are basically the increase or decreasing about the dynamic of a sound. If you have seen my previous video, what is a compressor? I had made some example, and in a particular example, I have said that dynamic of a sound increase, but because in that case I was using a certain in E a certain ratio, and the effect was as an expander because I use pretty limiter, and pretty limiter is a compressor, but is also an expander. So depend in which way you use it. Okay, and compression and expansion they works in the same way, but one is the opposite of the other. Okay, so compression decrease the dynamic of a sound, and expansion increase the dynamic of a sound. So for example, if I have a snare here, okay, if I compress it, for example, the sound is this. Okay, I have less spike of this snare. If I expand the sound, so for example in this way, okay, I have a more spiky sound. I have more transient. Okay, so basically this is the difference between compression and expansion. And the good thing about free limiter is that it's graph. Okay, I can really see what is going on here. I can see threshold point. I can see the curve. Okay, I can see the input signal. The output is the violet. The output signal is the green one. Okay, and the cool thing here is Maximus. Maximus is a multi-band compressor, but also it's not just you go out of the way about thinking compression and expansion, because with Maximus you can have compression and expansion at the same time, and you don't have you no more threshold points, the need, the ratio, but you can set different threshold points, and you can shape the curve, the compression curve. Okay, so for example, if I put a snare here, okay, so in this case I'm going to compress from this point to this point, and then following this line I create an expansion, but the line bends here, and the sound is compressed again, and maybe you can expand again and again, and you can make a crazy thing like this, for example. Okay, this is a snare, but I shape the snare. Okay, you can also make this kind of thing, or this. Okay, and you have total control. Maximus can do this. Maximus is also, if you want, a multi-band wave shaper. If I set all this envelope knob to 0, including look ahead, okay, I can obtain a multi-band wave shaper. Okay, so when I change the curve, for example, I have I have distortion. Okay, and I can distort every band independently. So this way, I have the bass band, the mid one. Okay, I can distort sound. I can set different type of curves. And another thing here I like about the Maximus is that it's graph. I can see, okay, let's reset to compression mode. Okay, so let's reset all the envelopes, knob, and deactivate the band compression. So I can see the peak of the sound, okay, here, and also here, in this right graph. I can see I can change the speed, I can see the input signal, the output signal, and all these type of curves. This is the action, for example, of the compressor. So if I make basic a basic compression, so in this way, okay, this line represents the action of the compressor. So the envelope, basically, the envelope of the compressor works in the same way as a synth, as the envelope of a synth, but in the opposite way, okay? Because compressor is going to reduce the volume, okay, or increase if you expand the sound in this way, for example, okay? So, okay, so you can see this line is going up above. When I compress, the line goes under. If I compress and expand, you can see the line change in this way. Okay, you can clearly see what is going on, and this is very helpful. Also, when I put point threshold point here, if you see to the right graph, when I click to the point, I can see this green line, and this green line show me I have a reference. Okay. Also, I can deactivate this snap button, and I can move around. Okay, so I can be very precise with my compression. So when I talk about compression, I also refer in the whole meaning of its term, because I include also expansion. So when you use Maximus, you think no more in that way, but you think about shaping the dynamic of a sound. Okay, and when I talk about compression, I include also expansion. And also, when you click here, you can pause this graph, okay, and it's very helpful to compare things. So you want to see, for example, you make some settings that you want to see the signal, and then you're going to change settings that you want to see different signal. Okay, so for example, I want to compare these. Okay, pause, and then compare to this. For example, click. Okay, I can make a comparison. Okay, and this is also very helpful. And when you increase look at delay the signal, and so the compression process starts before the sound, and you can clearly see here. Okay, so the violet one is the input, the green one is the output, and you can clearly see the output is delayed. Okay, so for example, if I compress, then you can also see the compression action. When I increase look ahead, you can clearly see compression process starts before the sound. The output sound is the green one, and it's delayed. So the compression starts before the sound. And another thing I like about Maximus is the linear phase filters. This option allow me to split the band in order to don't change the phase of the sound, because if you don't know where you're cueing or where you split bands, you change the phase of the sound, and in certain situations can be a problem. Okay, so I suggest you also to check out my video about linear phase, and you can find to the right top of this video. And uh, and this kind of linear phase splitting mode don't have basically don't have the classic pre-rig effect, because the slope, okay, is it's not too high. So for example, if I listen the mid band with normal filters, the sound is this. With linear phase, the sound is this. Okay, but you don't have pre-rig effect. Or if there is some subtle pre-rig effect, when you combine all bands together, basically it disappears. I prefer to use linear phase filters when I use Maximus. Okay, I basically personally obtain a better result. And another thing I noticed, when you use a multiband compressor and split bands in a nonlinear phase mode, you obtain, especially on kicks and bass sounds, you obtain an extra spike to the sound. So, for example, if I use now I'm using a pretty limiter graph in order to show you the spin. So I have a kick here, and this is the sign of the kick, okay, without Maximus. If I activate Maximus without linear phase filters, okay, you can clearly see. So this is the original sound, and this is the one processed with Maximus without any change. So without any change any parameters of Maximus. Okay, but just splitting bands in a non-linear phase mode, and you obtain, especially with bass sounds, you obtain an extra spike. And this also can be a problem, okay, because if you set the envelope of the compressor, so maybe the envelope works good for certain parts of the sound of the kick, but don't work good with that kind of spike. Okay, so keep in mind when you don't use linear phase filters on a multi-band compressor. If I set linear phase filters, so I activate linear phase filters and play. Okay, so this is to the right is the one with Maximus, with linear phase filters on Maximus. This one is the original sound, so you can clearly see this sound to the right and the sound to the left are the same. Okay, and this sound in the center, these two signal recording to the center, are the one that is the signal that is being processed without linear phase filters. Okay, and also another thing that I like about Maximus is this knob. This knob allows me to mix the band's settings of the compressor to the master. Okay, so it's very helpful it's basically a parallel compressor. Okay, so you have low, mid, and high bands with compression settings, and you can mix this kind of sound with the one that is unprocessed, and send these free bands to the master. Okay, so this is very helpful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Let me know what you think. Give me a comment below. Share this video with your friends. And if you want me make more video like this, consider support me through PayPal donation. You can find the link in the description of this video. For today, that's all. I see you next time. Bye.